least it's slow on
Okay.
Monday.
Yeah, that's true. It's slow on a Monday, so most of us are like not as worried. But so CyberQ's been slow on labs. My suggestion on that is I have noticed if I use my VPN and switch like regions, meaning if I switch from West Coast to East Coast, sometimes that helps. So that might help you if you guys run into that. I don't think it should work that way, but give it a try. Okay, so today, module 5, defeating anti-forensics techniques. Excuse me. And like I said, pardon the coughing. It is better, but unfortunately, when I speak, it gets progressively worse. So, okay. So what are our module objectives for this? So we want to understand anti-forensic techniques, understand the data deletion and recycling bin forensics, do an overview of what file carving techniques are and the ways to recover evidence from a deleted partition. We want to understand password cracking and bypass techniques, understand how to detect steganography. We kind of done a little bit of that already, but this will give you a little bit more. Hidden data in file system structures and what is called trail obfuscation. Understand the techniques of artifact wiping, overwritten data, metadata detection and encryption, and then an overview of anti-forensic countermeasures and anti-forensics tools. So the cool thing about anti-forensics is since we're training as white hat hackers, we also get to take a look at what the black hat hacker tools are, because we have to know what's out there in order to beat what's out there. All right, so first we're doing understanding anti-forensics and techniques. So what is it? It's also known as counter-forensics. It's a common term for a set of techniques aimed at complicating or preventing a proper forensic investigation process. And the goals of anti-forensics are to interrupt and prevent information collection, make difficult the investigators. That is a really weirdly written for it, but basically they're trying to make it hard for the investigator to find evidence. Hide
So like,
traces. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, so like covering a crime scene in bleach.
Yeah, just basically that's it. They're trying to cover up a digital crime scene. Hide traces of criminal or illegal activity, compromise the accuracy of the forensics report or testimony. So they if they can't get rid of everything, then you know that whole reasonable doubt. Well, why not shoot for that at least? So compromise that accuracy and then make people think, no, I don't know about this. And you know, you've got more of a foot in the door about having certain pieces of evidence thrown out. And then delete evidence that an anti-forensics tool has been run. So yes, you're covering your tracks so that people won't even know what you're doing. So here are some anti-forensics techniques. There's data and file deletion, password protection, steganography, data hiding in file system structures, trail obfuscation. By that, they just mean, you know, it's kind of like if you think about a trail as the old breadcrumbs in the forest, they try to obliterate that trail. Artifact wiping, and by that means they're trying to, if we think about the breadcrumbs as the trail markers, artifacts are trail markers. And they want to get rid of any artifact that says, hey, you know, there might be something fishy going on here. Overwriting of data and metadata, encryption, because the harder you encrypt something, the harder it is for an investigator to work through. Program packers, minimizing footprint, exploiting forensic tool bugs, and detecting forensics tool activities. Excuse me. Anti-forensics technique data file deletion. So when a file is deleted from the hard drive, the pointer to the file gets deleted, but the contents of the file remain on the disk. In other words, deleted files can be recovered and actually not that hard to if all they do is delete them from the disk until the sectors containing the contents of the file are overwritten with new data. Data recovery tools like Autopsy, Recover My Files, ESUS, Data Recovery Wizard Pro, and RStudio can be used for recovering deleted files and folders. So what happens when a file is deleted in Windows? Well, with the FAT file system, the OS replaces the first letter of a deleted file name with a hex byte code. And then you see that there. And that is a special tag that indicates the file has been deleted. The corresponding cluster of that file in the FAT is marked as unused, although it will continue to contain the information until it's overwritten. With the NTFS file system, when a user deletes a file, the OS just marks the file entry as unallocated, but doesn't actually delete the file contents. The cluster allocated to the deleted file is marked as free in the bitmap, and the bitmap file is a record of all used or unused clusters. The computer now notices those empty clusters and then avails those spaces for storing a new file. So it goes, oh, okay, there used to be something there, and it's been marked as a space where I can now write new files to. The deleted file can be recovered if the space is not allocated to any other file. So that means if it hasn't already been saved over the top. So as a note, on a Windows system, performing a normal delete operation sends the files to the recycle bin, whereas performing the shift delete operation, that bypasses the recycle bin. So the recycle bin in Windows, this is temporary storage where deleted files are placed. The file remains in the recycle bin until you empty the recycle bin or restore the file. Items can be restored to their original position with the help of Restore All Items option of the recycle bin, or you can go in and like right click and say restore on individual items. Deleting a file or folder from a network drive or from a USB drive may delete them permanently instead of being stored in the recycle bin. A lot of times you'll notice, especially with network storage, or if it's over a certain amount, if it's like a really big file, it'll say, are you sure you want to do this? This file will be permanently deleted. It'll flag a little warning. Continued storage location and recycle bin depends on the OS and file system. For the FAT file system, the older FAT file system for 98 and prior was in drive recycled. For NTFS, for Windows 2000, NT, and XP, it's in drive recycler, and then you see the SID. The newer ones, Vista and later, it's drive, and then you see the little recycle.bin SID. When a file is deleted, the complete path of the file and its name is stored in a hidden file called info2, that's in Windows 98, in the recycled folder. The information is used to restore the deleted files to their original locations. Prior to Windows Vista, a file in the recycle bin was stored in its physical location and renamed using the following syntax. And you see that right there. The D, that denotes that the file has been deleted. So there's an example down here saying the file is deleted from the E drive. It is the 8th file received by the recycle bin, and it is a doc file. So that's an example there. And no, I do not expect you to remember all of this. This is stuff that you do need if you're going to do certain certifications, but a lot of this stuff is stuff that you can look up. Windows Vista and later, the deleted file is renamed using the syntax that you see here with the $R, and then you have the original extension, and then where the hash represents a set of random numbers and letters and numbers. At the same time, corresponding metadata file is created, which is named, and you see that right here, where the hash represents a set of random letters and numbers that's the same as used for the R up above. The R and I files are located right there in the same spot that we talked about. This file contains the following metadata: the I file, original file name, size, and the date and time the file was deleted. Recycle bin forensics. The original files pertaining to the I files are not visible in the recycle bin folder when the file is corrupted or damaged, or the attacker deletes or insider deletes the files from the recycle bin. During forensic investigation, the investigator should check for the R files in the recycle bin directory to counter the anti-forensic technique used by the attacker. And you can see here, they've got an example that points out the INR files over here of an audio file, and then the R file, which doesn't have a corresponding I file. Recycle bin folder contains only files that have that I data, and then there's a directory for it where it shows both. If the metadata files related to the original files are not present in the folder, the investigator can use a copy command to recover the deleted files. You can see that right there. The command to copy from the recycle bin is right here. And then you can see the recovered data. In case the metadata of the recycle bin is lost or the data is hidden intentionally by the perpetrator, they can follow the above steps to recover the deleted files from the recycle bin for further analysis. File carving. Okay, this is actually pretty cool. This is a technique to recover files and fragments of files from the hard disk in the absence of file system metadata. A lot of times they'll chuck the metadata because they don't want you to have any sort of directory towards the stuff they've hidden, and file carving is how you try to get that back. In this technique, file identification and extraction is based on certain characteristics such as file headers or footers, rather than the extension or metadata. The file header is a signature, also known as a magic number, which is constant numeric or text value that determines a file format. For example, a suspect may try to hide an image from being detected by investigators by changing the file extension from JPEG to DLL. However, changing the file extension does not change the file header, and analysis tells the actual file format. For example, a file format is confirmed as JPEG if it shows JFIF in the file header and hex signature as that hex signature that you see right there. Investigators can take a look at the file headers to verify the file format using tools like 010 Editor, CI Hex Viewer, and Hexinator, Hex Editor, Neo, WinHex. WinHex is actually pretty cool. And a lot of times when you look at them, if you get good at using just the pure WinHex type stuff, it takes a lot of practice because you have to be good at looking at these codes on site and going, oh, that's what this is. Whereas there are some other programs with the more common files that are like, hey, this extension does not match the header or the hex signature, and it'll just tell you that there's a mismatch. And that is a big indicator that someone was messing with the file. So on Windows tracks its files and folders on a hard drive using the pointer that tells the system where the file begins and ends. When a file is deleted from the hard drive, the pointer to the file gets deleted, but the contents of the file are still there on the disk. In other words, the deleted files can be recovered from the hard disk until the sectors containing the contents of the file are overwritten with new data. Data recovery tools like Autopsy, Recover My Files, ESIS, Data Recovery Wizard, and there's a whole bunch of them here, can be used to recover deleted files and folders from Windows. So file recovery tools. ESIS Data Recovery Wizard Pro. This one's actually used a lot, and it's a really cool program. And there's of course some modules within Autopsy that can help too, but this one's specifically written for this. So a lot of times you'll see this one used. Hard drive data recovery software to recover lost data from your PC, laptop, or other storage media from deleting, formatting, partition loss, OS crash, virus attacks, etc. A lot of times when, I don't know if you guys have ever had to deal with this, but there have been times when I've had a client or at various places that I've worked, they're like, hey, so-and-so's computer crashed and it's partially corrupt and we need to hire someone to piece this back together. A lot of times you'll see them use ESIS and other tools to put those together. It is not a cheap process. So if you ever decide you want to do that, it's a good area because we really don't have a lot of people that do that in Idaho. File carving on Linux. When a file is deleted from Linux using the command bin rm, the inode pointing to the file gets removed, but the file remains on the disk until it's overwritten with new data. You noticing a theme here? If a running process keeps a file open and then removes the file contents are still on the disk and other programs will not reclaim the space. It is required to note that if an executable erases itself, its contents can be retrieved from a proc memory image. The command you see right there creates a copy of the file in a temp folder. Third-party tools like Stellar Phoenix, Linux Data Recovery, RStudio. I've used RStudio. I haven't used the other one. There's PhotoRec and Kernel for Linux. Data recovery can be used to recover deleted files from Linux. A lot of the Linux recovery ones are specific to the kinds of files they're recovering. Yeah, nothing is ever deleted, only paths are deleted. You basically, until it's been overwritten, there's still a very good chance that it's there. SSD file carving for Linux file systems. Forensic Workstation used Windows 10. Forensically acquired image from trim disabled SSD should be examined using file carving tools like Autopsy or RStudio. In Autopsy, the carved data from the forensic evidence file is displayed under the appropriate data source with heading carved files. So if you look, you'll see data sources, and then you can see there's different types of files. And this one, you'll see, oh, look, there's some deleted files that were recovered. And then you can go over and look at what exactly it was that it pulled out. Okay, before I go on to deleted partition, you guys understanding the carved files and all that so far? Okay, good. Okay, recovering deleted partitions. The MBR or master boot record partition table contains the records of the primary and extended partitions of a disk. When a partition is deleted from a disk, the entries with respect to the deleted partition are removed by the computer from the MBR partition table. Investigators use tools such as RStudio and ESIS Data Recovery Wizard to scan the disk for lost partitions and recover them. These automated tools perform full disk scans and look for deleted partition information and reconstruct the partition table entry for a deleted partition. So this is ESIS Data Recovery Wizard. When an unallocated partition is found during forensic investigation, the investigator will use automated tools like ESIS to discover the lost partition and see if there's anything they can recover from it. It will recover data from FAT and NTFS file systems based on their different file systems. And you can see down here that it looks a little bit different. You can see how you've got your disk, and then you see it's chunked up, and then you see a nice 1.17 gig unallocated section dropped right in here. And then you can see ESIS, and it says, which one do you want to start recovering? They've selected that. And then they've got, notice how it's got everything broken out, kind of like the other graphic did. It pulls everything up and says, hey, this is there. And this is actually a very easy way. If someone's in a hurry, they'll kill the partitioning and leave everything there, thinking that no one will bother to mess with that unallocated section, when really it's all just left there. It's just that it doesn't have that partition allocated to it. All right. Not really. Formatting a drive doesn't really get rid of the contents. There are formatting programs where they overwrite the drive, and there are different numbers of times that they are overwritten. Like Department of Defense uses like 7 overwrites, and there's one called the Gutenberg, and that one uses 35 overwrites, because the more times things have been overwritten when you do a drive wipe, the more scattered it becomes, the more things happen, the less likely you are to get anything back.
All I'm saying is we never overwrote once. If we were just not using a hard drive anymore, we wouldn't even keep it. We'd just destroy it. And by destruction, I mean completely punch the drive.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people do. In fact, even the school district did that because it's so difficult to completely 100% say, yes, we removed everything. A lot of times the destruction phase is literally that you destroy the hard drive. So next we have password protection. While conducting forensic investigations on suspect computer, accessing password protected resources is one of the challenges faced by the investigator. In such cases, investigators can use password cracking tools like Offcrack and Rainbow Crack to circumvent password protection. So what are the different types of passwords? There's what's called clear text passwords, which really aren't that difficult. They're transmitted and stored on the media without any encryption. That's just kind of like slicing through water. There's no way to, it's really easy to get through those. There's obfuscated passwords. Those are encrypted using an algorithm and can be decrypted by applying a reverse algorithm. And then there's the more difficult one, which is hashes. Password hashes are signatures of the original password generated using a one-way algorithm. Passwords hashed using hash algorithms are not reversible. And then you want to throw an extra little bit in there, you salt the hashes, so that's even more difficult. So our password cracking techniques, we've talked about this a couple of times. There's our dictionary attack, which is a dictionary file that is loaded into the cracking application that runs against a user account. Brute forcing, which takes a long time and a powerful computer. This tries every combination of characters until it's broken. And then there's what's called a rule-based attack. This attack is used when you have some information about the password and you can throw, it's kind of like using a part of a combination and you can put those pieces in there. What are some password cracking tools? There's Passware Kit Forensic, which is a complete encrypted electronic evidence discovery solution that reports and decrypts all password protected items on the computer. And it shows what that is there. There's Loftcrack, Oathcrack, Chain Enable, Rainbow Crack, and then there's offline NT password and registry editor. There are a ton more. Those are just some examples. Oh, hold on one second. Sorry about that. Dig out another cough drop. Okay. Steganography, which we've played with. This is a technique where we hide our secret messages within an ordinary message or a picture and extracting it at the destination to maintain confidentiality of data. The attacker can use steganography to hide messages like a list of compromised servers, source code for the hacking tool, or plans for future attacks. Forensic investigator examines the object or stego object, if you want to call it that, to extract the hidden information. And you can see down here an example of the different ways you can do that. And basically it's just use your different programs and see if you can figure out how to get the information out of it. But there are steganography detection tools like OpenStego and StegSpy. Then there's alternate data streams, or ADS, which are used to hide data in Windows NTFS and cannot be revealed through command line or Windows Explorer. Sorry about that. I told you the more I talk, the worse it gets. And I did want to cough in your ear. It allows the attacker to hide any number of streams into one single file without modifying file size, functionality, or etc., except the file date. However, the file date can also be modified using anti-forensic tools like timestamp. In some cases, these hidden ADS can be used to remotely exploit a web server. Trail obfuscation. The purpose of trail obfuscation is to confuse and mislead the forensics investigation process. Attackers mislead investigators via log tampering, false email header generation, timestamp modification, and various file header modification. Some of the techniques attackers use for data or trail obfuscation: log cleaners, misinformation, Trojan commands, spoofing, and zombie accounts. Traffic content obfuscation can be attained by the means of VPNs and SSH tunneling. Timestamp is one of the most widely used trail obfuscation tools that allows deletion or modification of timestamp related information on files. So why do you think you would want to change the timestamp?
So that whatever files that you might have that are incriminating during X and Y, or X to Y period don't show up if they do a simple search.
Exactly. So that if they say, hey, I want to look at the files that were changed from this time to this time, and you've changed the timestamp related information, they're going to miss whatever it is that you've changed. Artifact wiping. So this involves various methods aimed at permanent deletion of particular files or even an entire file system. There are disk wiping utilities. Disk wiping involves erasing data from the disk by deleting its links to the memory blocks and then overwriting the memory contents. Some of the commonly used disk wiping utilities include BC Wipe, Total Wipeout, Cyber Scrub, CyberSide, Drive Scrubber, Shreddit, etc. And then file wiping utilities. These delete individual files and file table entries from an OS. Some of the commonly used file wiping utilities are BC Wipe, RWipe, and Clean, Cyber Scrub, Privacy Suite, and etc. There are a ton of these. They don't always remove everything, but they can remove enough that you can miss the pieces that are left. Disk degaussing and destruction techniques. So this is a process by which a strong magnetic field is applied to a storage device, resulting in an entirely clean device of any previously stored data. This does not work on an SSD drive. This is only on spinning platter HDD type drives. NIST recommends a variety of methods to accomplish a physical destruction of digital media, which includes disintegration, incineration, pulverizing, shredding, and melting. Intruders use disk degaussing and destruction techniques to make evidentiary data unavailable to forensic investigators. And then there's, of course, formatting. Formatting of the hard drive does not erase the data present on the disk, but wipes the address tables and unlinks all the files in the file system. Later, a new file tree is set up to use with the OS. After formatting the hard disk, a forensic investigator can recover data from a formatted drive. Note, it is difficult to retrieve data that's been wiped out using the techniques. Hence, it's recommended that organizations take backups of the data on a regular basis. Overriding data and metadata. Perpetrators use different techniques to overwrite data or metadata, or both, on a storage media, thereby posing a challenge to the investigator while performing data recovery. Overwriting programs or disk sanitizers work in 3 modes: overwrite entire media, overwrite individual files, overwrite deleted files on media. Overwriting metadata. Investigators use metadata to create a timeline of the perpetrator's actions by arranging all computers' timestamps in a sequence. Although attackers can use tools to wipe the contents of the media, that action itself might draw the attention of investigators. Therefore, attackers cover their tracks by overwriting the metadata, like access times, rendering construction of timeline difficult. Timestamp, one I talked about before, is also in the Metasploit framework, is used to change the MACE or modified access created entry attributes of the file. Encryption. Data encryption is one of the commonly used techniques to defeat forensic investigation process. Intruders use strong encryption algorithms to encrypt data of investigative value, which renders it virtually unreadable without the designated key. Additionally, most encryption programs are capable of performing additional functions, including the use of key file, full volume encryption, and plausible deniability. That makes the investigator's job more difficult. Cryptanalysis can be used to decrypt encrypted data. Example is CryptTool. Okay, second part of the module. Discuss anti-forensics countermeasures. Okay. Train and educate forensic investigators about anti-forensics. Ta-da! Of course, that's number 1. Validate the result of examination using multiple tools. That's why you really should be aware of everything, because a lot of the tools won't do every single thing, but you can overlay multiple tools to make sure that you don't miss anything. Impose strict laws against illegal use of anti-forensic tools. Understand anti-forensic techniques and their weaknesses. Use the latest updated CFTs and test them for vulnerabilities. Anti-forensic tools. So we have a little pile of these here. Our steganography studio, CryptoPix, WB Stego, DBAN. So this is just a whole bunch of different ones you can use. So, module summary. What did we go through? We talked about anti-forensic techniques. We discussed data deletion and recycled bin forensics. We discussed in detail file carving and ways to recover evidence from deleted partitions. We also discussed password cracking and bypassing techniques. how to detect steganography, hidden data in file system structures, and trail obfuscation. We discussed the techniques for artifact wiping, overwritten data, metadata detection and encryption. And then finally, we talked about anti-forensic countermeasures and tools. And then the next one we're going to talk about on Wednesday is Windows forensics. All right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. Okay, so I know it's Monday back from a holiday, so does anyone have any questions? Or did I lose everybody in there? Well, I figured that a lot of it is some redo of things that you've already saw. So that is good there. And then if you go through the slides, which will be up here in just a minute to go through, you'll see a lot of links for the tools if you want to learn more about each specific tool, and I highly suggest we do that. I am going to go ahead and stop the lecture portion of this, and I will talk to you about your homework here.